Welcome, sleepy one. I'll be your storyteller tonight. Before we begin, please like and subscribe for more bedtime stories. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from. And now, close your eyes. Let's begin. I never gave first dates much thought. People either clicked or they didn't, and most of the time it was just awkward small talk followed by a polite, "It was nice meeting you." But after months of being single, I figured it was time to at least try. I'm 26, living in a mid-sized Ohio city, sharing an apartment with my best friend, Kara. We've known each other since college. She's the type to overthink everything, while I like to think I don't, until I'm pacing in front of the bathroom mirror 10 minutes before leaving, heart racing. That night, the butterflies in my stomach weren't the cute kind. They felt like they were clawing their way out. I was curling my hair in the bedroom mirror, shoulders tense, while Kara sprawled across my bed, scrolling through Instagram reels, with that exaggerated sigh she uses when she wants me to pay attention. "Okay, Ava," she said, dragging out my name like it was a warning. "How well do you really know this guy?" I rolled my eyes, partly because she sounded exactly like my mom, partly because her skepticism poked at my fragile confidence. "His name's Daniel. He's a software engineer, grew up around here. We've been texting for like 3 weeks. He seems normal." Kara sat up, one eyebrow arched. "Normal guys don't exist on dating apps. Only liars, gym bros, or psychos." "Thanks. Really reassuring," I muttered, spraying my curls into place. She tossed her phone onto the bed. "I'm serious. You always give people the benefit of the doubt. Just keep your guard up, okay?" I smirked, slipping on my denim jacket. "You're just jealous because my date's taller than 5'9". "Bitch," Kara said, laughing, and threw a pillow at me. My phone buzzed. Uber was outside. My stomach tightened as I grabbed my purse. Kara followed me to the door, suddenly serious again. "Text me when you get there, share your location. If you forget, I swear I'll hunt you down myself." "I'll be fine," I said, though her words stuck in my chest longer than I wanted. The ride to the cafe felt both long and too short. City lights blurred past the window, my reflection staring back at me, lip gloss already fading, hands twisting my jacket zipper nervously. The cafe was cozy, tucked near the highway but still far enough away to feel like a bubble of its own. A few couples dotted the tables, warm yellow lights washing everything in a soft glow. And there he was. Daniel, at the only empty table, wearing a fitted black shirt. His posture was straight but relaxed, and when he saw me, he smiled, and I couldn't help smiling back. "Hey," I said, sliding into the chair across from him. "Did I keep you waiting?" He tilted his head, pretending to think. "No, just 30 days, 20 hours, and 5 minutes. I laughed, covering my mouth. "Wow, you rehearsed that, didn't you?" "Maybe." He grinned. "But worth it." And just like that, I relaxed. His humor melted some of the tension out of me. The conversation flowed easily, as if we'd known each other far longer than 3 weeks. We shared food, fed each other bites like teenagers in love, laughed at ridiculous jokes. Every time he leaned in to hear me, I caught myself staring into his hazel eyes flecked with green. I could practically hear Kara rolling her eyes if she saw me right now. When the server cleared our plates, Daniel excused himself to the restroom. As he stood, something slipped from his pocket and fell softly to the floor. I bent to pick it up. It was a folded white handkerchief. I expected light, harmless fabric. Instead, it felt heavy. Curiosity overtook me. I unfolded it and froze. A scalpel lay there, shiny, sharp, reflecting the soft cafe lights in a way that made my stomach drop. A smear of dried blood clung near the base of the blade. My throat locked. For a moment, it was like my lungs forgot their purpose. The clinking of cups, the soft murmur of conversations, all of it dulled into a distant hum. In my head, Kara's voice echoed, "Keep your guard up." My pulse pounded so hard it felt like my body was trying to shake itself apart. I refolded the cloth with trembling fingers, forcing myself not to drop it, and slipped it into my purse. My reflection in the window was calm, almost normal. My heart was anything but. Daniel returned a few moments later, adjusting his sleeves. His smile was smooth, practiced. "All okay?" he asked, his eyes searching mine. I forced my mouth to move. Yeah, just checking my phone. He sat down, his arm brushing mine as he leaned in. The warmth of his skin made my stomach twist. That smile, the one that had felt charming, disarming, now looked wrong, like a mask stretched too tightly over something else. We talked, or at least he did. My words came out thin, mechanical. I laughed when I was supposed to. I nodded at the right times. Inside, I was counting exits, watching reflections in the window, trying to slow my heartbeat. Then he leaned closer, voice low and easy. "How about we go back to my place, just a couple drinks, no pressure." My phone's screen glowed too bright as I pretended to read a text. "Oh, my roommate just messaged. She's sick. I should get home." Daniel's smile froze. For a heartbeat, his expression shifted. Eyes dark, unreadable. Then, with eerie calm, he reached for the fork on my plate. I went still. He flipped it, holding it like a knife. Without looking away, he pressed his other hand flat on the table and began stabbing the fork between his fingers. Tap, tap, tap. At first it was slow, almost playful. Then faster, sharper. The fork clinked against the wood, the rhythm tightening like a heartbeat gone wild. His nostrils flared. His lips twisted into something that wasn't a smile anymore. "Daniel," I whispered. My voice cracked. "What are you doing?" He didn't answer. His pupils were blown wide, bloodshot eyes fixed on mine. The fork blurred, stabbing faster, closer, harder. "Stop. Stop it. It's not funny." A thin bead of blood appeared at the tip of his finger. He didn't flinch. "If you don't stop," I managed, my voice breaking, "I swear I'll scream." He froze. Fork still pressed to the table. Then slowly, painfully slowly, his mouth curled into a thin, chilling smile. "I thought we'd spend more time together tonight." I swallowed hard. We can, some other time." He glanced around. A couple at the next table was staring now. He finally set the fork down, then brought his finger to his lips, sucking away the blood as if nothing had happened. The server dropped off the check. My hand shook under the table. I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. 5 minutes later, we stepped outside. The night air hit me like ice water. I turned to leave, desperate to get away, but his hand clamped around my wrist. "Ava." His voice was low, almost tender, but his grip was iron, burning into my skin. "I thought you liked me." I do," I stammered, trying to sound calm. Kara needs me." His eyes bore into mine, unblinking. His breath came heavy and hot. For a moment, he didn't move. Then suddenly, violently, he shoved me. The pavement tore into my knees. Pain flared sharp and bright. Blood soaked through my jeans. Before I could even speak, he spat on me. The warm disgust of it made my stomach twist. He leaned down, his breath against my ear. "When they find you, if they find you, you'll be unrecognizable." His tone was calm, deliberate. "Best of luck, Ava." And just like that, he walked away. I sat frozen, shaking, blood trickling down my legs. My mind was blank, screaming silently. A cafe worker stepped outside, trash bag in hand. "Oh my God, are you okay?" His voice broke through the fog. He called 911. The police came, lights flashing, voices sharp. I handed them the handkerchief from my purse. My fingers barely worked. They searched for him, but by the time they checked, his dating profile was gone. Deleted. Like he never existed. Kara cried when I got home. She held me like I might shatter, whispering that it was over, that I was safe. But I didn't sleep that night. Or the night after. It's been a month. I carry a taser and pepper spray now. I cross the street when someone walks too close. I deleted every dating app. And sometimes when the world is quiet, I still hear that sound. Metal striking wood, faster and faster until my chest tightens and I can't breathe. And I wonder if I hadn't seen that scalpel. If I'd gone with him, would I still be here to wonder at all? I never liked office parties, never had, but somehow I always ended up at them. Maybe it was the lure of free booze. Maybe it was the gnawing guilt of saying no. Or maybe it was just that after spending nearly 50 hours every week in that building, my life outside those walls barely existed. This one was at a hotel banquet hall just outside the city. The company had rented the place for the night, complete with an open bar, a DJ cranking pop hits, and waiters weaving through the crowd with trays of sliders, shrimp, and impossibly perfect little desserts. People moved differently than they did at work. The usually stiff manager was spinning the intern in a clumsy dance, laughing in a way that made his tie nearly flop off. The HR rep, who never cracked a smile in the office, was belting out karaoke with shocking gusto. Strangers at work who barely nodded in the hallway now wrapped me in enthusiastic hugs like long-lost friends. I stayed by the bar, whiskey glass heavy in my hand, turning it over slowly. Dancing had never been my thing. The lights were too bright. The bass too insistent. But it was still better than sitting alone in my apartment, swiping through dating apps I didn't even have the energy to open. Then I saw her. She lingered near the far wall, half swallowed by shadows where the colored lights didn't quite reach. Tall, poised in a deep maroon dress that hugged her curves without shouting for attention, dark hair draped over one shoulder, a soft gleam catching the light here and there. There was a gravity to her, a weight that made her seem both elegant and profoundly burdened, as if she carried something no one else could sense. It wasn't just her beauty, it was how she made the room respond. Two of my coworkers, both unsteady with drink, approached her with easy smiles and lifted glasses. But within moments their expressions faltered. They stiffened, muttered half-hearted excuses and retreated, leaving untouched drinks behind. She didn't flinch, didn't look at them as they left. Still, I noticed the subtle sag of her shoulders, the faint press of lips together like she'd seen this happen too many times to count. There was a quiet sorrow there, but it pulled me in. Eventually, she slipped out onto the balcony. I hovered for a moment, telling myself to stay put. But curiosity, or maybe the alcohol or the loneliness, nudged me forward. I grabbed 2 glasses of wine and stepped outside, the cool night air biting gently at my cheeks. Below, the city spread in scattered lights, the hum of distant traffic faint but steady. She leaned against the railing, staring down, shoulders relaxed but tense in a way that suggested private thoughts I wasn't meant to hear. "You don't seem like the party type," I said, holding out the glass. Her head lifted slowly. She smiled, not the hurried, polite kind, but deliberate, considered. "Neither do you." Her voice was calm, smooth, a touch husky, and it made me lean closer without realizing it. We talked. Her name was Clara. She had moved to the city recently, working at a marketing firm across town. She was sharp, witty, but also thoughtful, listening like she could hear the words without being distracted by the night around us. She asked about my family, my past relationships, even childhood memories I rarely shared. Most people glaze over, but she probed, genuinely curious, making me feel seen in a way I hadn't in years. Time slipped by unnoticed. I found myself laughing more than I had in months, the kind of laugh that comes without thinking. She swirled her wine, looking at me with that same steady gaze. "So," she said, tilting her head, "is this our first date then?" I blinked, caught off guard, a grin spreading across my face. Would it be wrong if it was? "Not at all," she said, eyes catching the light like sparks. For the first time in years, it felt like something real might sprout from an ordinary night. By midnight, the party was thinning. People stumbled toward ride shares. Others clung to friends, trying to drag them away from the dance floor. But out on that balcony, it was just us. And for once, I didn't mind being somewhere ordinary because it had turned into something extraordinary. Clara stood close beside me, the faint trace of her perfume, something floral with a sharp undertone, curling through the air like smoke. My pulse quickened before I even realized what I was saying. "You want to come back to my place for another drink?" Her smile deepened, slow and deliberate. "I'd love to." My apartment wasn't much. A 1-bedroom on the 5th floor of a tired building. The kind where the pipes moaned and the walls were so thin I could hear my neighbor's TV through the plaster. But it was mine. Clara moved through the door like she'd been there before. She kicked off her heels with a soft thud and curled up on the couch, folding her legs under her like she belonged. "You live alone?" she asked, accepting the glass of wine I poured her. "Yeah," I said, taking the chair across from her. "About 3 years now. Close enough to work. far enough from downtown that I can sleep without sirens." She smirked, eyes glinting. "Smart man." We sat close, laughter easing between us. Talked about ridiculous coworkers, bad dates, awkward family holidays. The kind of stuff you share when you're tipsy and pretending you're not lonely. The more she spoke, the easier it was to talk. She had this way of drawing stories out of me I didn't even know I still remembered. Then my phone buzzed. I pulled it out, glanced at the screen. My sister. I hesitated, then answered. "Hey, yeah, I'm fine. Just hanging out with a friend. I'll call you tomorrow." When I looked back, Clara's smile was gone. Her glass hovered halfway to her lips, motionless. "Who is that?" "My sister," I said, frowning. "She checks up on me sometimes." Clara's tone was soft, but there was something tight underneath it. "So, I'm just a friend." I laughed nervously. "I mean, we just met." Her fingers tightened around the stem of the glass until her knuckles whitened. "But you said this was our first date. Why lie?" The air in the room seemed to shrink. My chest tightened. "Clara, I didn't mean it like that." "You're right, it's a date. I just didn't want to." Her eyes flashed, something raw and furious sparking behind them. "You men are all the same," she hissed. "Always keeping us at arm's length, disposable, replaceable." "Whoa, hey," I said, holding my hands up. "That's not what I meant at all." She set her glass down hard. The sound cracked through the room like a gunshot. Her voice dropped to a whisper. My ex said the same thing, before I burned his lying mouth shut. My blood ran cold. "Excuse me?" Clara's laugh came sharp and wrong, almost a shriek before it broke into something jagged. "They said I was unstable. Locked me away for a year. Said I was better now, stable." She leaned forward, eyes wide, unblinking. "But I can smell lies. And you just lied to me." I stood, heart pounding so loud it filled my head. "Clara, I think maybe you should—" Her head tilted, her smile stretching too wide for her face. "Why are you scared of me?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to, my body already had. Every instinct screamed to run. She rose slowly, every movement controlled, deliberate, like a predator tasting hesitation. "You should be." I stumbled backward toward the door, but before I could reach it, she lunged. Her speed was unreal. She slammed me into the wall so hard my skull cracked against the plaster. My vision blurred, a metallic taste flooding my mouth. I staggered toward the kitchen, desperate, and grabbed the first thing I saw, a knife. "Stay back, Clara," I shouted, my voice splintering. "I swear I'll use this." Her eyes gleamed, animal bright. "That's funny," she whispered. He tried that too. She came at me again. I swung, but she caught my wrist midair. Her nails, razor sharp, dug into my skin, tearing flesh. Blood ran hot down my arm, dripping onto the tile. I screamed, twisting, but she shoved me against the counter, breath hot against my face. "You don't want me anymore, do you?" She rasped. "You're just like him. All of you are the same. Stop, please, stop," I begged, pushing back, my voice cracking with panic. She dropped her gaze to the knife on the floor, snatched it up and raised it high. I caught her wrist mid-swing, the blade trembling inches from my eye. "Clara, you're out of your mind." I shouted, muscles trembling, veins burning with the effort. Her teeth clenched, spit flying. "No," she hissed. "I'm finally seeing clearly." My arms buckled, strength fading fast. The point of the blade wavered closer, until instinct took over. I slammed my forehead into hers. A crack split the air. She screamed, stumbling backward, blood streaming from her nose. I didn't think. I grabbed the wine bottle from the counter and swung with everything left in me. It shattered against her temple, a dull thud followed by silence. Clara crumpled, motionless. For a long, shaking moment, I couldn't breathe. My heart thundered, my ears rang, and I just stood there, waiting for her to move again. She didn't. I grabbed my keys, bolted out the door, and ran down the stairs into the night until my lungs burned and the world blurred. Hours later, I came back with the police. I refused to go in alone. My coworkers confirmed they'd seen her at the party, said they'd avoided her, that something about her had felt off. The officers searched every inch of my apartment. Clara was gone. Not a drop of blood, not a broken glass. Just gone. A detective later told me Clara had been released from a psychiatric hospital a month earlier. One of their most violent patients. Faked her recovery, disappeared. I moved out within the week, changed my number, tried to bury the whole thing, but sometimes late at night when the world goes still, I swear I hear footsteps outside my new apartment door. Slow, careful, patient. And I wonder if Clara is still out there, waiting for another first date. I never imagined my choices would catch up with me so violently. My name is Alyssa Monroe, I'm 27, and for the past year I'd been drawn to a dangerous kind of thrill. Dating married men. I know how it sounds. Selfish, reckless, even cruel. But there was something intoxicating about the secrecy, the stolen attention, the way they tried to impress me as though they had something left to prove. Maybe it was loneliness, maybe it was arrogance, or maybe I just liked the control. Whatever it was, it consumed me, until last month, when that rush turned into the worst night of my life. I had moved to Riverside, California, a year earlier, fresh out of a long-term engagement. Derek, my ex, was the epitome of safe. Steady job, clean-shaven, family-approved. Boring, predictable, comfortable. And I was not that. I wanted chaos. I wanted danger. I wanted life to feel alive. When my engagement crumbled, I dove headfirst into excitement, even if it burned me. That's when Tinder became my playground. And yes, I filtered out the single and looking types. I wanted the ones with discreet profiles, the vague bios, the subtle wedding rings visible in photos they pretended didn't exist. Married men. Dangerous, exhilarating. They chased me. They desired me. They made me feel alive in ways Derek never could. Then came Nathan Crawford. I matched with him on a Wednesday. His profile was deliberately simple. One sharp photo of him in a tailored dark suit leaning casually against a sleek black Mercedes. Bio: work hard, play harder. Not looking for anything serious, just fun. We started texting. Cocky, confident, just on the edge of arrogance. He knew exactly how to compliment without sounding cheap. Red is your color, he sent after I shared a mirror selfie. Dressed casually. You haven't even seen me in red, I teased back. I don't need to. I can tell, he replied. By Saturday, he was asking me out, choosing the Oakwood Grill, a high-end restaurant tucked just off the main strip downtown. Best wine list in the city. Be there at 8:30, I'll take care of everything, he texted. I hesitated. My sister Melissa had warned me 1,000 times about this path. You're going to mess with the wrong wife one day, Liz. Not every woman just cries herself to sleep. Some fight back. I laughed her off. Please. These men wouldn't risk their lives if their wives were truly dangerous. I should have listened. That night I slipped into a deep red dress I'd been saving, tight but elegant, hugging all the right places. For a layer of safety, I wore a short brown wig. My natural hair was long and blonde, and I liked the illusion of hiding, of having the upper hand. I arrived at 8:30 sharp. Nathan was already there, leaning against his Mercedes. He wasn't exactly what I pictured. Tall, slightly balding at the temples, but the suit screamed money. His watch alone could pay my rent for a month. Damn, he said, eyes tracing me up and down. Pictures don't do you justice, I smirked. You're not too bad yourself, he replied. We entered together, and he led me to a reserved corner table. From the first second we sat, his eyes rarely left me. At first it felt flattering. Then it started to feel predatory, the way he scanned me, cataloging every detail. So does your wife know you're here? I teased, sipping water. He chuckled a little too nervously. God, no. If she did, she'd kill me. I laughed lightly, nerves skittering beneath my skin. Scary, huh? You'd understand if you ever met her, he said, forcing a smile. But let's not talk about her tonight. The evening passed in a haze of expensive dishes, champagne, and endless compliments. I played my part, letting him look. That was the game. But just as he reached for his wallet, the world shifted. A scream shattered the hum of the restaurant. Nathan, you bastard. The room froze. Conversations died mid-sentence. Glasses clinked softly, abandoned. My stomach plummeted as I saw her storm in. A woman in her mid-30s, raven hair pulled into a tight bun. Emerald eyes like knives, sharp and calculating. She was stunning but terrifying. Every movement radiated danger. My chest tightened. This was no ordinary confrontation. This was war. Monica. Nathan's voice cracked, trembling between disbelief and dread. Oh, don't Monica me, she snapped, her voice cutting through the stunned silence like a whip. I knew you weren't at some damn meeting. Her gaze sliced toward him, then to me. And look at you, wasting our money on this little... Her words hit the air like poison. Her eyes locked on me, burning, furious. For a second, I couldn't breathe. What the hell is wrong with you? I stammered, my voice too small, my legs unsteady as I pushed up from the chair. She sneered, lips tight, jaw trembling with rage. So this is who he's spending my money on? A pathetic homewrecker in a cheap wig. Please, let's just go home, Nathan begged, standing now, both hands raised like he was calming a wild animal. But Monica was beyond reason. Her eyes gleamed with a feral kind of hurt. Without warning, she snatched a wine bottle from the next table and brought it down hard across Nathan's forehead. The crack of glass against skull echoed like a gunshot. Nathan staggered backward, blood gushing instantly, screaming in shock and pain. Gasps rippled through the restaurant. A woman shrieked. Someone bolted for the door. The manager fumbled for his phone, yelling for someone to call 911. I turned to run, but before I could take a step, her hand latched onto my wrist. Strong, unyielding. You think you can just waltz into someone's marriage? She spat, her breath hot on my face, flecks of spit hitting my cheek. Let me go. I screamed, twisting, clawing at her grip. Her fist connected with my cheek hard. A blinding burst of pain exploded across my face. The world tilted. My knees buckled. The taste of iron filled my mouth. I hit the floor, dazed, tears spilling before I could stop them. She didn't hesitate. She grabbed my leg and yanked. My body scraped across the polished floor, my heels screeching against the tiles. Help! Somebody help me! I screamed, voice breaking. No one came. Monica dragged me through the swinging kitchen doors, slamming them shut behind us. The air was thick with the smell of oil and meat, the sizzle of fryers humming like something alive. The staff had fled. We were alone. I scrambled backward on trembling hands, palms slick with sweat, until my back hit the cold steel of a counter. Monica, please, I sobbed, voice shaking. I'm sorry. I'll never do this again, I swear. Her lips twisted into something cold and vicious. Oh, honey, she said, her voice low and trembling with venom. I don't care about your promises. I want you to feel what I feel. I want you ruined. Her gaze flicked to the deep fryer bubbling beside us. The hiss of hot oil filled the silence between us. My stomach lurched. Please, I whispered. Please don't. But she lunged. Her hands closed around my throat, hot and trembling, and she shoved me toward the fryer. The heat hit me instantly, searing my face, my neck. I screamed, kicking, clawing at the counter, my nails scraping uselessly against steel. You think you can take whatever you want? She hissed through her teeth. Guess what, sweetheart? Tonight you lose that pretty little face. The fryer's heat was unbearable, steam rising in curls, blisters forming just from the proximity. My wig slipped halfway off. Tears blurred my vision. I could smell the grease, thick and suffocating. I don't want to die, I screamed. Monica laughed, a sound that didn't even sound human, and shoved harder, forcing my head closer to the bubbling oil. The scent of burning oil filled my lungs, and I could almost feel my skin beginning to melt. Say goodbye, sweetheart. The kitchen door burst open with a thunderous crack. Police! Drop her! Monica's head snapped toward the sound just as a gunshot rang out. She screamed and collapsed, clutching her leg as blood pooled beneath her. I fell to the floor, coughing, gasping, my whole body shaking. 2 officers rushed forward, pulling me away from her. Another cuffed Monica as she writhed, shrieking in pain. You're safe now, one of the officers said softly, draping a jacket around my shoulders. But I didn't feel safe. Not even close. I woke up 2 days later in the hospital. My cheek was swollen, purpled with bruises. My arm was scraped raw, but I was alive. The doctor told me if the cops had been even a minute later, my face would have gone under. Nathan was released the next day, 6 stitches across his forehead. Monica was taken into custody, later sentenced to prison for attempted murder. As for me, I moved back in with my sister, Melissa. I don't go on dates anymore. I flinch at raised voices. I can't stand the smell of fried food. Even the sound of oil popping in a pan makes my chest tighten until I cry. The scars aren't just on my skin, they live inside me. I thought I liked the thrill, the danger, the power, but I never imagined it would nearly cost me my life. Now when I look in the mirror, I don't see the woman in the red dress anymore. I see someone who barely survived her own mistakes. And maybe that's punishment enough. I never imagined my first real date would become the story I'd replay in my head for the rest of my life. Back then, I was 21, working evening shifts at a tiny clothing store just off the strip in Daytona Beach, Florida. Most nights, I barely had the energy to think about talking to anyone, let alone dating, but my coworker wouldn't let it go. She kept insisting I needed to get out before I turned into part of the wallpaper. So somehow I found myself saying yes when a guy named Marcus Vega asked me out. I'd met him at a friend's gathering the week before. He wasn't loud or pushy, didn't try to impress anyone. He just had this quiet, almost unassuming smile that made me pause. He worked at a used bookstore downtown, and when he asked if I wanted to grab dinner sometime, I surprised myself by agreeing. The night of the date, I stood in front of the mirror in my cramped apartment, twisting the hem of a green dress between my fingers. Was it too much? Too little? Jess, my roommate, lounged on the couch, flicking through a magazine without even looking at me. "You look fine," she said, her voice flat. "Fine or good?" I pressed, turning to her with a hopeful tilt of my head. Jess smirked. Good enough to make him nervous. "Now stop pacing." My palms were already clammy as I grabbed my purse. First dates always felt like auditions for a part I didn't know the lines to, and tonight was no exception. When Marcus knocked, Jess practically leapt to the door, giving him a theatrical once-over. "You must be the famous Marcus," she said, smirking. He chuckled, a little awkward, a little shy. "I hope that's a good thing?" "Depends," Jess teased, then shoved me gently forward. "Go on, have fun, and don't do anything I wouldn't do." I rolled my eyes, muttered a reluctant goodbye, and stepped outside with him. His car wasn't anything flashy, just an old Toyota with a soft hum, but it was clean. The radio played faint rock songs that I half recognized. "So," Marcus said as we pulled away from the curb. "Nervous?" "Why would you say that?" I asked, gripping my purse a little tighter. "Because you haven't taken a full breath since you got in the car," he replied with a crooked grin. I laughed, and despite myself felt a little lighter. "Okay, maybe a little." "Good," he said. "Now I don't feel so bad for being nervous, too." His honesty loosened something tight in my chest. We drove deeper into the heart of Daytona. Neon lights buzzed past the windows, and the heavy, salty air wrapped around us like a blanket. He told me about a customer at the bookstore who tried to pay with seashells, and I shared a story about a kid who'd once tried to steal a mannequin scarf by wrapping it around his waist. We laughed so hard my stomach hurt, and for a moment everything felt easy. The restaurant he chose was a small Cuban spot wedged between a laundromat and a dusty record shop. Inside, the aroma of roasted pork and fresh coffee hit me immediately. Brightly colored tiles covered the walls, and crooked black and white photos stared down at diners from mismatched frames. We snagged a tiny table by the window. Families crowded larger tables. Waiters weaved between them with clattering trays, and the street outside buzzed with headlights and voices. I felt myself finally relax. Marcus leaned forward, resting his chin in his hand, eyes glinting. "So, Anna," he said, voice soft but teasing, "what's your guilty pleasure? Don't say chocolate. That's too easy." I smiled nervously, twisting my straw between my fingers, feeling a thrill of anticipation under the warmth of the restaurant lights. "I sing to myself when I'm nervous," I admitted, twisting my straw again. "In the shower, in the car. It's awful. I'm tone deaf." "Good," Marcus said with a grin. "Then you'll never judge me for liking terrible movies." I laughed. "Like what?" He opened his mouth to answer, but then it happened. A sharp pop cracked through the air. For half a second, I thought someone outside had set off fireworks. Then the window beside us exploded inward with a deafening crash. Shards of glass rained across our table, glittering as they fell. The popping sounds came again, faster, harsher. Gunshots. Screams tore through the restaurant. "Get down," Marcus shouted. His hand clamped around my arm, yanking me beneath the table. My knees hit the floor hard, pain jolting up my legs. My heart slammed against my ribs like it was trying to escape. All around us, people were crying, yelling. Chairs scraped violently. Plates shattered. The gunfire was relentless, loud, chaotic, wrong. My ears rang so fiercely that everything blurred. The world suddenly muffled like we were submerged underwater. I pressed my hands over my head, glass biting into my palms. My breath came in ragged gasps, too shallow, too quick. "Marcus, what's happening?" I whispered, though my voice barely made a sound. "I don't know." "Just stay down," he said, gripping my hand tighter. Every second stretched into forever. I pictured the shooter stepping through the door, face hidden behind a mask, spraying bullets into the crowd. My chest ached so badly it felt like my ribs might splinter. Then, as abruptly as it began, the gunfire stopped. The silence that followed was unbearable. Somewhere, a child whimpered. A woman screamed something in Spanish, her voice cracking with terror. The air reeked of gunpowder and coffee and spilled food. I dared to lift my head. The restaurant was a war zone. Glass sparkled across the tiles like ice. A man crouched by the counter, blood soaking through his shirt. Another woman pressed a napkin to someone's arm, hands trembling. People clung to one another, eyes wide, faces pale. Marcus helped me up slowly, his own face drained of color. "Are you okay? Did you get hit?" I shook my head, though my hands wouldn't stop shaking. Outside, sirens wailed, growing louder by the second. Word spread quickly in hushed, broken voices. Someone said it was a political protester, someone angry, someone trying to make a statement. They hadn't meant to kill anyone, just scare people. But that didn't matter. They could have killed us. They could have killed a child. I stood frozen as the police burst in, shouting commands. "Stay where you are. Help is coming! Don't panic." Too late. Panic was all there was. It lived in my chest now, clawing its way up with every breath. Marcus squeezed my hand gently. "You're okay," he whispered, though his voice quivered. "We're okay." I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to. But all I could think was how fragile everything had felt. How one moment I'd been worrying about my dress, and the next I was praying under a table, convinced I'd never see my mother again. We gave our statements later, numb and hollow, saying the same words over and over. Hours passed before Marcus drove me home. The radio stayed off. The city felt ghostly, the streets empty except for flashing lights in the distance. When he parked, I just sat there staring at the door to my apartment. "You want me to walk you up?" he asked softly. I nodded. My legs barely held me on the steps. At my door, I turned to him, trying to find something to say, something that fit. "Thank you," I whispered, "for pulling me down." He gave a tired, crooked smile. "First dates aren't supposed to be like that." "No," I said quietly. "They're not." That night I didn't sleep. Every creak in the walls made me jump. I kept hearing it all again. The gunfire, the glass, the screaming. I pressed my pillow over my ears, but the sound still found me. Marcus called the next day to check in. We met again once, then again, but something had shifted. Maybe what we'd shared wasn't chemistry, but survival. Too much too soon. The spark had been buried under the weight of fear. I never went back to that restaurant. Even after it reopened, I couldn't make myself walk through those doors. Every time I passed it, I saw myself under that table again, hands over my head, praying not to die. Life moved forward, as it always does, but the scar stayed. Even now, when I hear a car backfire or glass shatter, my chest tightens and my breath catches, because I learned on that first date how fast laughter can turn to chaos, and how close I came to never walking out of that little restaurant alive. I never thought my first real date would turn into a memory I'd carry like a scar for the rest of my life. I was 21 then, working evenings at a cramped clothing store just off the Strip in Daytona Beach, Florida. Most nights I was too drained even to think about dating, but my coworker kept insisting I needed to get out before I faded into the wallpaper. That's how I found myself saying yes when a guy named Marcus Vega asked me out. I'd met him a week earlier at a friend's gathering. He wasn't pushy. He wasn't arrogant. He just had this quiet, easy smile that made me stop mid-thought. He worked at a used bookstore downtown, so when he asked if I wanted to grab dinner sometime, I surprised myself by saying yes. That night, I stood in front of the mirror in my tiny apartment, twisting the strap of my green dress, wondering if it screamed too much. Jess, my roommate, lounged on the couch, flipping through a magazine. "You look fine," she said without looking up. "Fine or good?" I pressed. She smirked, eyes glinting. Good enough to make him nervous. Now stop pacing. My palms were slick inside my clutch. First dates always left me feeling like I was performing a role without a script. When Marcus knocked, Jess darted to the door, giving him a mock once-over. "You must be the famous Marcus," she teased. He chuckled, a little off balance. "I hope that's good." "Depends," Jess said, nudging me forward. "Go on, have fun, don't do anything I wouldn't do." I rolled my eyes, murmured a goodbye, and stepped outside with him. His car was nothing fancy, just an older Toyota humming to life, but it was tidy. A soft rock station whispered through the speakers. "So," Marcus said as he pulled away from the curb. "Nervous? Why would you say that?" I asked, clutching my purse tighter. "Because you haven't taken a full breath since you got in," he said with a crooked grin. I laughed despite myself. "Okay, maybe a little." "Good," he said. "Now I don't feel so bad being nervous too." His honesty loosened something inside me. Neon signs buzzed past the windows as we drove deeper into Daytona. The air smelled of salt and exhaust, thick and humid. He told me about a customer at the bookstore who tried paying with seashells. I told him about a kid who once wrapped a mannequin scarf around his waist to sneak it out. We laughed, and for a few minutes it felt effortless. The restaurant he chose was a Cuban spot tucked between a laundromat and a record shop. Inside, the air smelled of roasting pork and fresh coffee, mingling with a faint scent of cleaning soap. The walls were bright tiles, old black and white photos tilted crookedly in frames. We claimed a small table by the window. Families crowded larger tables. Waiters rushed past, trays clattering. Outside, the street buzzed with headlights and voices. I felt myself exhale. Marcus leaned forward, resting his chin on his hand. "So, Anna, what's your guilty pleasure?" "Don't say chocolate. That's too easy." I fiddled with my straw, smiling. I sing to myself when I'm nervous. "Shower, car, it's awful." "I'm tone deaf too," he said. "Then you'll never judge me for liking terrible movies." I laughed. "Like what?" Before he could answer, it happened. A sharp pop split the air. For a fraction of a second, I thought someone had set off fireworks outside. Then the window beside us exploded inward with a deafening crash. Shards rained over the table, glittering like cruel confetti, and the pops came faster, louder. Gunshots. Screams erupted. "Get down!" Marcus shouted, yanking me beneath the table. My knees slammed against the floor. My heart thudded so violently it ached. Chairs scraped. Plates shattered. My ears rang. The world became a muffled chaos, underwater and unreal. I pressed my hands over my head, stinging from shards of glass. My breaths were sharp, ragged. "Marcus, what's happening?" I whispered. "I don't know. Just stay down." His fingers gripped mine with white-knuckled insistence. Each second stretched infinitely. I imagined someone barging through the door, spraying bullets. My chest constricted with terror. Then abruptly, the gunfire stopped. Silence. Worse than the noise. Somewhere a child's sob broke through. A woman screamed in Spanish. The tang of gunpowder mingled with spilled coffee and roasted pork. I dared a peek. The restaurant was wrecked. Glass glittered across the floor. A man huddled by the counter, blood seeping through his shirt. A woman pressed a cloth to another's arm. Everyone huddled in wide-eyed shock, trembling. Marcus pulled me up, pale. "You okay? Did you get hit?" I shook my head, hands trembling. Outside, sirens grew louder. Word spread in whispered panic. A political protester had driven by, firing into the restaurant to scare, not kill. But it didn't matter. They could have killed anyone. Fear had already dug deep. Marcus squeezed my hand. "You're okay. We're okay," he whispered, voice shaky. I wanted to believe him, but my mind replayed every second. One moment I'd fretted over a dress. The next I prayed under a table. Convinced I'd never see my mother again. Numb, we gave statements. Hours later, Marcus drove me home in silence. The radio was off. Streets were eerily empty. When he parked, I froze outside my apartment door. "Want me to walk you up?" he asked gently. I nodded, legs jelly. At the door I turned, voice barely audible. "Thanks for pulling me down." He gave a tired smile. "First dates aren't supposed to be like this." "No," I whispered. That night I couldn't sleep. Every sound jolted me. Pop's glass-shattering screams echoed in my skull. I pressed my pillow over my ears. Marcus called the next day. We met again, then again, but something had shifted. Maybe we had been forced into an intense bond too soon. The spark never grew, it lay buried beneath fear. I never returned to that restaurant. Even after it reopened, I couldn't step inside. Every walk past, I saw myself under that table praying not to die. Life moved forward. The scar stayed. To this day, a car backfiring or glass breaking tightens my chest and steals my breath. On that first date, I learned how quickly laughter turns to chaos, and how close I came to never leaving that small restaurant alive. His profile radiated confidence. Too much of it, maybe. Picture after picture showed him leaning against a tricked-out Nissan, gold chains catching the light, designer sneakers angled just right, tattoos creeping from under his sleeves. Hood rich, I thought. Not subtle, not my type, but that smile, easy, disarming, made me pause. His bio read, "I make the nights fun. Don't swipe if you're boring." Against my better judgment, I swiped right. We matched instantly. Our messages started casual. Him teasing me for my safe photos, me rolling my eyes at his swagger. But he was funny, sharp, quick with comebacks that made me smirk at my phone in spite of myself. Over the next few days, the banter grew steady, easy. He asked me out. Said we'd drive through the city, grab some food, nothing fancy. It felt low pressure, and honestly, I hadn't been on a real date in almost a year, so I said yes. Saturday night, I must have checked the mirror 10 times. Black jeans, maroon top, white sneakers. Simple, safe. My best friend Mara texted, "Send me his plate number just in case. Don't get murdered." I laughed, but a nervous flicker tightened in my chest anyway. Then the walls started vibrating. Deep, bone-rattling bass rolling through my apartment. I looked out the window and saw it. A gleaming, low-slung Nissan idling at the curb, paint glinting under the streetlights. The tinted windows threw back my own reflection. Darius leaned out, flashing that same grin from his profile. "Alina," he called. "Yeah," I said, pulling my jacket close as I walked out. "Hop in." "You ready?" His voice was smooth, practiced. The kind of confidence that fills the silence before you can. Inside, the car smelled like leather polish and too much air freshener. Blue neon lights glowed across the dash, tinting his skin electric. He wore a black tracksuit traced with gold lettering, chain gleaming heavy at his throat. A fresh fade, clean beard, every inch curated. He looked exactly like his photos, which somehow made him feel less real. "You look good," he said, giving me a once-over before shifting gears. "Thanks," I said, trying to sound relaxed. We cruised through downtown Brookfield, neon signs bending across the wet pavement. The music pounded, bass so thick it thudded in my chest. Darius talked nonstop, about saving for the car mods, late-night races, people who doubted him. "See this baby?" he said, patting the dashboard. "All me. Everyone said I couldn't, now they all want to ride with Darius." I smiled politely. "I'll admit it's impressive. You ain't seen nothing yet." We hit the outskirts where the streets thinned into empty industrial roads. Darius glanced over, eyes bright with mischief. "Want to see what she can really do?" I hesitated. Sure." He slammed the accelerator. The car leapt forward, a blur of engine roar and color. My stomach dropped as the speedometer climbed. 80, 90, 100. I gripped the seatbelt so tight my knuckles ached. "Darius," I shouted over the music. "Slow down, relax. I got this." His laugh was wild, unhinged. The city streaked past in ribbons of light, every turn sharper than the last. My pulse thundered in my ears. Then, sirens. Distant at first, then swelling closer, slicing through the music. I twisted around. Red and blue lights flashed behind us. 2, maybe 3 cruisers gaining fast. My throat went dry. "Darius, what the hell did you do?" He didn't answer. Jaw tight, eyes fixed forward. "Just hold on, he floored it." The Nissan screamed down the road, weaving through traffic. Horns blared. My breath came in gasps, short and useless. "This isn't funny, pull over." "Can't," he muttered. "Not tonight." The police stayed on us, sirens shrieking, lights fracturing the mirrors. My vision tunneled, everything shrinking to speed and panic. Then, bang! The car jolted sideways. My head hit the window, stars bursting in my vision. Tires screamed. "Metal tore, they hit us," I gasped. "Yeah," Darius hissed. Another impact spun us. Smoke, asphalt, the world twisting until stop. The engine died with a shudder. Before I could move, glass exploded beside me. The driver's window shattered, shards raining across the seat. Darius ducked. My window went next, cold night air knifing in. Hands where I can see them. Voices shouted from every direction. White light. Guns pointed through the broken glass. My body froze. I raised shaking hands. I didn't do anything. Please," Darius yelled. "I didn't steal this car. You got no proof." "Out now!" I fumbled for the handle, stumbling barefoot onto the freezing pavement. One shoe gone. Hands grabbed me, pulled me behind a patrol car. "Name?" an officer barked. "Alina," I stammered. "I swear, I don't know what's happening. It's our first date. I met him online." I didn't know. They patted me down. My eyes blurred, hot with tears. Drivers slowed to stare. Behind me, Darius was shouting, his voice raw. "Don't let them lie about me." Metal clinked. Handcuffs. His words turned into noise. The officer studying me sighed. "You're saying you had no idea the car was flagged?" "No, I thought it was his. He picked me up for a date." My voice cracked. They questioned me for what felt like hours. Same questions, same disbelief, until finally, one of them decided I wasn't involved. An officer drove me home in silence, radio static filling the space between us. The city lights slid past, cold and distant. My reflection in the window looked ghost-pale, hollow. When we stopped, I mumbled thanks and rushed inside. I locked the door, slid to the floor, heart still hammering. My phone buzzed. "Mara, so how was it?" I didn't answer. I blocked Darius, deleted everything. All I'd wanted was a fun night out. A little excitement, a story to tell. Instead, I ended up kneeling on cold asphalt, guns aimed at my face, breath shaking out of me in clouds. And the worst part? Some reckless stranger had dragged me into it, and I'd let him. That night, I swore I'd never gamble on a first date again. I never imagined a first date could permanently alter the way I saw people. To be honest, I hadn't been on a proper date in years. At 27, I lived alone in a modest one-bedroom apartment in Columbus, Ohio. The kind with creaky pipes and thin walls that let in too much of the neighbor's life. I worked as a junior marketing analyst at a local firm, which mostly meant endless hours staring at spreadsheets that no one outside my office ever cared about. My dating life had been stagnant, partly because of past heartbreaks, partly because by the time I dragged myself home, my energy had evaporated. Then a mutual friend insisted I meet someone she swore was a gentleman. "Trust me," she said, voice brimming with certainty. "He's different." His name was Nikos Stavros, 31, and according to her, he came from a well-off Greek family that had invested in restaurants and real estate across the city. "He's charming," she promised, "driven, single because he's focused on business." That sounded like someone I could actually have a conversation with. There was also the quiet thrill of meeting through a friend instead of another dating app. A safer, somehow more personal option. Apps always made me feel like I was flipping through a stack of trading cards. So when Nico slid into my Instagram DMs, his profile a glossy reel of expensive suits, European vacations, and sleek sports cars, I agreed to meet him. The day of the date, I lingered in front of my mirror longer than necessary, picking at the hem of my navy dress, twisting it, adjusting it, thinking maybe one more tweak could make it perfect. Jess, my roommate, sprawled on the couch, scrolling on her phone. "You look fine," she said without looking up. "Fine?" I echoed, turning sideways, tugging at the fabric again. Fine isn't exactly confidence-inspiring. Finally, she glanced up, smirk tugging at her lips. "You look good, I promise. Stop freaking out." "What's his name again?" "Nikos." She wrinkled her nose. "Sounds like a guy who makes women cry." I threw a pillow at her. "Super supportive, thanks." Jess laughed, then grew serious. "Just text me when you get there. Text me when you leave. And if anything feels off, call me." "Okay, Mom." But deep down I knew she was right. After my last breakup, I'd promised myself I'd trust my gut. Nikos picked the place. Le Jardin, an upscale downtown restaurant with white tablecloths, gold-trimmed menus, and waiters who seemed trained to glide rather than walk. I took a cab. My car was still in the shop. The moment I walked in, I saw him. He was by the host stand, tall and broad-shouldered, black hair perfectly styled, a tailored charcoal suit hugging him in all the right ways. His watch caught the overhead lights and gleamed. "Nora," he said, voice smooth, a rehearsed smile in place. "That's you?" He took my hand and kissed it. I felt my cheeks heat, a mix of embarrassment and something else I couldn't quite name. We sat, and before I could even glance at the menu, Nikos ordered for both of us. Lobster bisque, filet mignon medium rare, and a bottle of Cabernet. "Wow," I said lightly. "Decisive." "I know what's good here," he replied, leaning back like a king surveying his court. Conversation started, but it was stilted. "So, how did you get into real estate?" I asked, forcing interest. "It's a family thing," he said curtly. "Do you enjoy it?" He shrugged. "It pays well." I laughed awkwardly. "Fair enough. Hobbies?" He smirked. "Making money." I thought he was joking. He wasn't. There was no warmth in his gaze, only the cold, calculating look of someone appraising a house rather than listening to a person. When the food arrived, it was perfect, but I barely tasted it. My unease grew as Nico snapped at the waiter for bringing the wrong wine. "This isn't the 2016, he barked, voice sharp. "Do I look like someone who wouldn't notice?" The waiter stammered out an apology. Nikos didn't relent. Unbelievable. A place like this and they can't train staff to do the simplest thing. I shifted, trying to sound casual. "It's fine, really. I'm not that picky." He didn't even glance at me. By the end of lunch, I knew I didn't want to see him again. His arrogance was suffocating, his cruelty subtle but constant. When the bill came, he tossed a black Amex on the table without looking. "I'll split if you want," I said. "Don't insult me," he snapped. "I invited you outside." The sun was bright, the city alive with Saturday energy, the streets buzzing with people and cars. I was about to call another cab when I heard the jingling of keys. "Where's your car?" Nikos asked, voice casual. "In the shop," I admitted. "Then I'll take you home." A flicker of instinct whispered, "Don't do it." But the cab fare to my apartment across town would have been steep, and there he was, holding the door open to a black BMW that gleamed like it belonged in a magazine. "Come on," he said smoothly. "I'll get you there faster." I forced a smile and slid into the passenger seat. At first, it felt ordinary. He asked for my address, typed it into the GPS, and we merged onto the freeway. 10 minutes passed, and I realized the familiar skyline was shrinking in the rearview mirror. Instead of heading toward my neighborhood, he turned onto quieter streets, tree-lined and oddly deserted. This isn't the way," I said, trying to keep my tone light. "I'm taking the scenic route," he replied, eyes on the road. My stomach clenched. Another 10 minutes. The city gave way to farmland. Endless cornfields stretched on either side, the occasional barn flashing past. "Nikos, I'd rather just go straight home," I said, firmer this time. He smirked, casual, almost playful. "Relax, you'll get there. Don't you like a little adventure?" My hands clenched in my lap. "Please, just take me home." Then his demeanor shifted. The warmth drained from his face. The smirk vanished. His voice dropped to something cold, measured. "You think I don't see what you're doing?" "What are you talking about?" I asked, heart hammering. "You used me," he said, voice tight. "Let me pay for an expensive lunch. Let me waste my afternoon when you had no intention of seeing me again." "That's not true," I stammered. I just don't lie." His grip on the steering wheel tightened. "I can read people. You were bored the whole time I opened my mouth." Then he leaned closer, voice a low, sinister whisper. "You know what's funny out here? No one would hear you scream. I could drive deeper into the country, pull off onto one of these dirt roads. You'd disappear. No one would find you for days. Maybe weeks. Blood ran cold in my veins. I forced my voice steady. "Nikos, please." "I didn't mean to upset you. Just take me home. I'll never bother you again." He chuckled, low and chilling. "You couldn't bother me if you tried." The hum of the engine filled the silence that followed. My heart pounded so hard it reverberated in my ears. I thought of Jess, how she'd told me to text her. I hadn't, no one knew where I was. I stared at the road ahead, at the endless fields, wondering if this was the last thing I'd ever see. Finally, without a word, Nikos made a sharp U-turn. My breath caught, but I didn't dare speak. We headed back toward the city. Every mile closer felt like being dragged out of a nightmare, yet I didn't relax. Not yet. When we reached my neighborhood, he pulled up in front of my apartment building. I lunged for the door handle, desperate, but his hand shot out, gripping my wrist. His eyes bore into mine. "You remember this," he said quietly. "I could have done anything to you out there, anything, don't forget that." Then he released me. I stumbled out of the car, legs trembling, and ran inside without looking back. I barely slept that night. Every creak of my apartment made me flinch. The next morning, I went to the police. I told them everything. The threats, the drive into the countryside, the words that still echoed in my mind. They brought him in. But Nico spun a different story, smooth, practiced. He said he'd just wanted more time to talk, that I'd been dramatic, that I'd misinterpreted everything. Without recordings, texts, or witnesses, the police could only give him a warning. I was furious, but not surprised. Men like him knew exactly how to twist reality, how to make you doubt your own senses. For weeks afterward, I checked my locks twice every night. I jumped whenever a black car slowed near my street. I never saw him again, but the memory lingered, a scar etched into the way I approached dating. I learned something that day. Danger doesn't always lurk in dark alleys. Sometimes it comes in a tailored suit, smiling across a white tablecloth, and I swore silently and firmly that I would never ignore my instincts again. I was 22 when it happened, fresh out of college and still fumbling around, trying to figure out who I was supposed to be. My degree was in communications, but it felt less like a credential and more like a fancy label for being lost. The career I imagined didn't materialize. Instead, I spent my mornings and afternoons at Ashwood Cafe, a cozy little coffee shop tucked into a corner in Durham, North Carolina. Brick walls framed wide windows that spilled sunlight across the wooden floors, casting a warm golden glow each morning. I kept telling myself it was temporary, a placeholder until life started making sense. The customers gradually became familiar faces. The old man who never missed his paper, the nursing student who'd nod off at the counter while waiting for her cappuccino, the moms in yoga pants who came in after their classes, always in a rush but smiling politely. And then there was Caleb Hart. He wasn't a regular at first, but he showed up often enough to catch my attention. He stood out because of the way he moved through the world, unhurried, attentive, unlike the typical rush of distracted orders. Most people barked their drinks over their phones. Caleb actually looked at me. "Large black coffee," he said the first time I served him. "No cream, no sugar." "Guess I'm boring like that," he added, flashing a crooked smile. I laughed, sliding the cup toward him. "Or maybe you just like coffee the way it's meant to taste." He tilted his head, thoughtful. "Maybe you're right." The second visit, he remembered my name from my little badge. "Morning, Emily." Just that tiny gesture made my chest tighten. By his third or fourth visit, I realized I was straightening my hair before heading to the register whenever I saw him in line. I hated myself for how obvious it must have been, but I couldn't help it. Caleb carried a calm, quiet presence. Not flashy, not cocky, but steady, magnetic in a way that made him impossible to ignore. One Tuesday morning, he lingered a little longer at the counter. The cafe was quiet, just me and one other coworker. "You ever let customers take you out for dinner?" he asked casually, as if he were commenting on the weather. I blinked, caught off guard. "Depends. What's on the menu?" he chuckled. "Whatever you want." "Friday night?" The words slipped out before I could process them. "Sure." And just like that, I had a date. Friday arrived, and I tore through my closet, frustrated. My roommate, Lily, sprawled on her bed, scrolling her phone, rolled her eyes. "Blue dress," she said without looking up. "You didn't even see..." I held up a different one, but she waved it off. "You always overthink this stuff. The blue one makes your eyes pop." "Done," I muttered, sighing, but slid into it anyway. She was right, it worked. I added ankle boots, gave myself one last nervous glance in the mirror, and tried to steady the fluttering in my chest. At 7:15, my phone buzzed. "I'm outside, Caleb." When I stepped out, he leaned casually against a dark gray Honda Civic. Not overdressed. Dark jeans, white button-up, sleeves rolled. Comfortable, confident, enough to make me swallow hard. "You look..." He paused, a small laugh escaping. "Honestly, you look amazing." "Thanks," I said, tucking a stray strand behind my ear. "You clean up pretty well yourself." He opened the car door for me, old-fashioned in the nicest way. We drove to a tucked-away Italian restaurant on a quiet downtown street. Candles flickered on each table, the air heavy with garlic, fresh bread, and the faint tang of tomato sauce. Conversation came easily. "So you went to UNC, right?" he asked, twirling his fork. "Yeah, I graduated last spring. Communications major. And now you're at Ashwood Cafe." I laughed, embarrassed. "Not exactly glamorous," I admitted, "but hey, free coffee." "There are worse perks," he grinned. I asked about him. "He worked in IT at a mid-sized company," he said. "Nothing exciting. But when he spoke about saving for a trip to Europe, his eyes lit up, animated in a way that made him feel suddenly larger than life. Dinner passed in a blink. By the time we left, neither of us was ready to part. "You like dancing?" he asked outside. I shrugged. "Not very good at it, but yeah. There's a club a few blocks away. Loud music, overpriced drinks. Want to?" I hesitated for a moment, then nodded. Why not? The club was packed. The bass thudded so hard it felt like it shook my ribcage, and flashing lights bathed everything in neon blues and reds. We pushed through the sweating crowd, grabbed overpriced cocktails, and eventually found a space on the dance floor. I wasn't thinking about how ridiculous I probably looked, just laughing, moving, letting the night blur around me. Caleb wasn't a great dancer either, but he leaned into it, smiling at me like the rest of the world had disappeared. That's when Eli Jacobs appeared. He slid into our space like he owned it, all slicked back hair, expensive cologne, and a perfect practiced smile. "Name's Eli," he shouted over the music, then with a smirk, "but everyone calls me Jacuzzi Eli." I laughed, thinking it was some dumb inside joke. "Why?" "You'll see," he said, his eyes sparkling in a way that made me uneasy. Caleb's smile faded slightly, though he didn't say anything. Within minutes, Eli was inviting us to an after-party at his place. A few others overheard and joined in, excitement in their voices. Before I knew it, 6 or 7 of us piled into Ubers heading toward his house. I should have hesitated, but at 22, adventure seemed more thrilling than caution. Eli's place was stunning. A massive 2-story modern home, floor-to-ceiling windows, manicured lawns. Inside, everything gleamed. Polished wood floors, an expansive bar, leather furniture. Out back, sliding glass doors opened to a steaming hot tub strung with twinkling lights. "Now you get the nickname," Eli said, spreading his arms proudly. People laughed, poured drinks, and jumped into the hot tub. Eli moved effortlessly through the crowd, topping off glasses, cracking jokes, making sure no one went without. I got caught up in it, dancing with some of the girls, sipping my drink, letting the buzz carry me. But Caleb, he stayed quiet, close, scanning the room as if cataloging every detail. At one point he leaned down. "You good?" "Yeah," I laughed, taking another sip. "Why? Not having fun?" He shrugged. "Just keeping an eye out." I waved him off. "Relax, it's fine." But around 2 a.m. he pressed again. "We should head out." I frowned. "What, already?" "The night's still going." "I'm tired," he said flatly, then softer. "I don't like this vibe." I wanted to argue, but the seriousness in his eyes stopped me. With a sigh, I nodded. The Uber ride back was quiet. I tried to break it. "You really are a buzzkill, you know." He chuckled faintly but didn't answer. When he dropped me off, he hugged me quickly. "Text me tomorrow, okay?" I went to bed, still humming with leftover adrenaline, convinced Caleb was just overly cautious. The next morning, my phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello?" I answered. "Is this Emily Carson?" A man asked, steady, professional. "Yes. This is Officer Daniels with the Durham Police Department. We'd like to ask you a few questions regarding a house party you attended last night." My stomach dropped. What happened?" "Can you come down to the station?" At the station, they sat me in a small, pale room and asked me to recount everything. Who I arrived with, what I saw. Then they told me why. A girl at the party had been assaulted by Eli. The world tilted beneath me. I thought of his perfect smile, the way he hovered around the girls, topping off drinks. My throat tightened. I didn't see anything. He was just... The officers exchanged a glance. One said quietly, "We found a lot on his computer. He's been doing this for a long time." By the time they let me go, I was shaking so hard I could barely hold my car keys. That afternoon, I told Caleb everything. His jaw clenched. For a long time, he didn't speak. Finally, he said, "I knew something was wrong. The way he hovered, the way he pushed drinks. I didn't want to scare you, so I just said I was tired." Tears stung my eyes. "You saved me." He shook his head. "No, you listened. That's what saved you." In the weeks that followed, I kept up with the case. Eli's real name wasn't even Eli, it was Christopher Vaughn. Jacuzzi Eli was just a nickname, a mask. Police found hard drives full of videos from parties like the one I went to. Girls who weren't as lucky as me. He was sentenced to 10 years. It wasn't enough, but it was something. Every time I thought about it, my stomach churned. I replayed that night over and over. If I'd stayed longer, gotten in the hot tub, taken one more drink, it could have been me. Caleb and I kept seeing each other after that. Our relationship wasn't built on that night, but it shaped something deeper, a trust I didn't know I was capable of. Sometimes I still hear Lily's voice in my head. You always overthink things, but now I know, sometimes overthinking or just listening to the gut feeling of someone you trust can save your life. That night could have changed me forever. But thanks to Caleb Hart, it didn't. I've always hated admitting it, but my dating history has been a mess. Not the kind of messy you laugh about over wine with friends, but the kind that leaves bruises. Some you can see, others that gnaw quietly inside. The kind that makes you wonder if you're the problem. If maybe something in you keeps drawing the same dangerous types over and over. For years, I had a pattern. Guys who seemed thrilling at first glance. Tattoos, fast cars, muscles that demanded attention. They entered a room and it felt like the air bent to their will. I told myself it was confidence. Later, I realized it was control. Some were fighters, MMA amateurs who treated every night out like a cage match. Others were dealers, hustlers, or men skirting the edges of the law. Charming until they weren't. Fun until they snapped. Thrilling until the danger became unbearable. I'd been shoved, screamed at, ghosted, cheated on, and once even locked in a bathroom while my ex conducted some mysterious business in the living room. I promised myself I was done. That I wanted something steady, something real. That's how I found myself on True Connect, a newer dating app. Not as casual as Tinder, but not as formal as Match. I didn't expect miracles, but maybe someone there wasn't a part of the chaos I was trying to escape. That's when I matched with Julian Mercer. His profile didn't shout excitement. His main picture showed him leaning against a wooden fence, a dog sitting patiently at his feet, the evening sun spilling gold across the scene. His bio said he was 32, a civil engineer, loved weekend road trips, and most disarmingly, better at cooking breakfast than dinner. Something about that line felt like a warm exhale, safe, a feeling I hadn't allowed myself in years. He messaged first. Julian. Okay, serious question. If you could keep only one record forever, what would it be? It caught me off guard. Most guys led with a "Hey Beautiful" or something crude. Meteor's probably "What's Going On" by Marvin Gaye. My dad used to play it constantly. Julian. Solid choice. Mine's Cliché but Rumors by Fleetwood Mac. Every track hits, no skips. I laughed. The first time in forever that I felt someone actually saw me. We texted for 2 weeks. Music, work, food, ridiculous reality shows. He told me about bridges he built, delayed sometimes for the dumbest reasons, missing bolts, trucks stuck for hours. I told him about the dental clinic where I worked as an assistant, the endless calls, the paperwork. Gradually, I lowered my guard. I didn't give him the full story of my past, not yet. But I admitted the truth, I dated some dangerous men. I wanted something different now. He didn't judge. Julian. I get it. Everyone's got history. What matters is where you want to go, not where you've been. That line lingered in my chest like a soft promise. So when he asked to meet, I said yes. I picked the Lantern's Rest, a quiet pub on the edge of the city. Not fancy, not a dive. Familiar enough to feel safe, distant enough that I wouldn't run into ghosts from my past. I arrived early, nerves making me punctual. I chose a table near the back, always where I could see the door. Old habit, never sit with your back to the entrance. When Julian walked in, my heart skipped. He looked just like his photos. Sandy blonde hair falling slightly into hazel eyes, a neatly trimmed beard, jeans, a simple button-up. Not trying too hard, just himself. He smiled when he spotted me and something in my chest unclenched. Julian. Hey, sorry if I'm a minute late. Traffic near the square was murder. Me. You're right on time. I'm early. We ordered drinks, gin and tonic for me, beer for him, and started talking. Effortlessly, like our texts come alive. Bridges, old records, random obsessions, favorite diners, guilty pleasure shows. He teased me for watching Love Island. I teased him for still owning a Wii, and I laughed. Truly laughed. For the first time in a long time. Not the polite kind of laugh you fake on awkward dates just to fill the silence. This was real. For a moment I thought, maybe this could work. Maybe this is what normal feels like. About an hour in, Julian excused himself to use the bathroom. I stayed at the table nursing the last of my gin and tonic, scrolling aimlessly through my phone, trying not to spiral into overthinking. When he came back, though, something was off. His smile was still there, but it didn't reach his eyes. His shoulders seemed tighter, like his mind was somewhere else. Me. Everything okay, Julian? Julian. Yeah, just nothing. Don't worry about it. I wanted to press, but I didn't. I'd learned that lesson the hard way. Don't push when a man closes off. We finished our drinks. The pub had started to thin out, the low hum of voices fading into the soft clatter of last calls. I didn't want to drag the night longer than it needed to. When Julian offered to drive me home, I hesitated. I usually never accepted rides on a first date, but it was late. The buses had gone quiet, and the thought of waiting alone at a stop made my stomach twist. So I said yes. The cold hit me the second we stepped outside. I pulled my jacket tight, breath fogging in the chill. The parking lot behind the pub was dimly lit. Yellow bulbs flickering overhead, long shadows pooling between cars. That's when I saw them. A group of 4 or 5 people loitering near the far edge of the lot. Skinny, restless, twitchy. I knew that energy too well. Sleepless eyes, loud, brittle laughter. My chest tightened, and then I froze. Johnny. He used to run with my ex Mason. I hadn't seen him in years, but I'd never forget that unpredictable edge, how he could be laughing one second and smashing bottles the next. The moment our eyes met, something cold crawled up my spine. I gripped Julian's arm, my voice barely a whisper. Let's just get to the car. Quick, please. He glanced at me, frowning. You know them? Just please, let's go. We picked up the pace, but Johnny noticed. Johnny, shouting. Well, look who it is, little Camille. My blood went cold. The group started toward us, spreading out like a pack closing in. One had a shaved head and shoulders that filled out a filthy hoodie. Another kept twitching, shifting from foot to foot. Julian tensed beside me. Julian, what's this about? Omirisi old connections. Just keep walking. We didn't make it far. The tall one stepped forward. Shaved head. Who's this? Your new boyfriend? Julian raised his hand slightly, trying to diffuse. Hey, we're just leaving. No trouble, all right? Their laughter sliced through the night. Ugly, sharp, mocking. One of them swung a crowbar lazily like it was part of some cruel game. My pulse hammered so hard it hurt. Julian grabbed my hand. Julian, get in the car, now! We rushed toward his car, but the group followed fast. The crowbar slammed into the side mirror with a metallic crack. Another kicked the door, denting it with a dull thud. Johnny, you don't walk away from us, Camille. Not after everything. I screamed as Julian shoved me into the passenger seat and dove in after me. Fists pounded on the windows, laughter turning feral. The engine roared and the tires screeched as Julian slammed on the gas. The lot spun in the rearview mirror, faces warping in the glare as we tore out onto the street. Silence swallowed the car. My hands shook uncontrollably as I fumbled with my seatbelt, my breathing uneven. Me. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't know they'd be there, I thought. Julian, tight, low. Camille, what the hell was that? They're from my past. I cut ties years ago. I swear, he exhaled sharply. They didn't act like it. Tears blurred my vision. I just wanted tonight to be normal. I didn't mean for this to happen. He didn't respond. His jaw was set, eyes locked on the road. The hum of the tires filled the space between us. When we reached my building, I turned to him, desperate. Julian, I'm sorry. Please believe me. He looked at me for a long time, then his expression softened. Just a little. It's not your fault, he said quietly. But I don't know if I can handle that kind of chaos. My chest caved. Can we try again, please? He stared at the wheel, then murmured, We'll see. I got out on trembling legs, holding on to that small, fragile thread of hope. Maybe he meant it. The next day I texted him, no reply. The day after I tried again. Silence. By the third I opened the app, he'd unmatched me. I just sat there on the couch, staring at my phone, hollow. I couldn't even be angry. His car was damaged. He'd been terrified. And it was all because of me, because no matter how much I scrubbed, my past clung to me like smoke that wouldn't wash off. I thought about messaging him again, trying to explain, but I didn't. He'd made his choice. Maybe that was the lesson. No matter how far I tried to run, the past wasn't done with me. I told myself I'd keep trying, that one day someone might see past the mess. But deep down, I wasn't sure that day would ever come. That night, I sat in the dark of my apartment, every creak and shuffle outside making me flinch. My mind replayed Johnny's face, the sound of glass shattering, the echo of their laughter. For the first time in years, I wasn't just scared of being alone. I was scared I'd never escape. I never imagined I'd be the kind of person whose life turned into a story like this. A year ago, if you'd asked, I would have laughed and said, crazy things only happen to other people. That was before Nolan Rhee. I'm 27, and until last winter, my dating history was a string of disappointments. Not disasters. Exactly, but nothing worth remembering. My longest relationship, 1.5 years with Derek, had ended with him thinking romance meant bringing me Taco Bell after a night out. After him, I swore off wasting time on people who weren't serious. Truthfully, though, I was lonely. I worked as a medical receptionist in Clearwater, Florida. My days a blur of appointment scheduling, insurance forms, and answering phones. Evenings were spent in my tiny one-bedroom apartment, eating leftovers and scrolling until I fell asleep. Some nights the silence felt almost physical, pressing into my skin. I craved someone who looked at me like I mattered, who actually wanted to hear my voice. So when my coworker Tasha introduced me to her cousin Nolan, curiosity nudged me forward. She hyped him up, polite, funny, with old-school gentleman vibes. She even teased, "Girl, he opens doors and actually listens. Not like these idiots out here." That same night, Nolan texted me. Charming, understated, thoughtful. "Nolan. Hey, I'm Nolan. Tasha says you're the reason the office runs like a machine. Minar, ha ha ha." She's exaggerating. Nolan. Good, I like modesty. Rare these days. That little line hooked me. No emojis, no sleazy compliments, just genuine questions. What books do you like? Favorite foods? Weekend hobbies? He seemed to genuinely want to know me. 3 days of texting later, he asked me out. Nolan. There's this seafood place in Dunat I love, cozy, right by the water. Want to go Saturday evening? Miku sounds perfect. The idea of dinner by the water, maybe a walk afterward, felt like a dream compared to reheated pasta and Netflix. Saturday came and my nerves buzzed with that fluttery excitement. I lingered over my outfit, finally settling on a soft yellow sundress that felt effortless but pretty. My roommate Claire leaned against the doorway, watching me curl my hair. "Okay, but what do we really know about him?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. I sighed. "He's Tasha's cousin. Works in construction management, likes surfing." "That's it." Claire crossed her arms. "You sure he's not one of those smooth talkers who seem perfect until they snap? Crime show paranoia much?" I muttered. "Uh-huh," she said. "Those women always say that right before something bad happens." Her words lingered even as I laughed them off. But when Nolan pulled up in a black Toyota Tacoma, spotless, sleek, the kind of car that screamed someone who cared about appearances, I pushed the unease aside. He stepped out, and the tension in my chest eased. Tall, navy button-down, dark jeans, hair neatly combed, his smile warm. He opened the passenger door for me. "Camille?" he said softly. "Yes," I replied, heart skipping. "You look even better than Tasha described." I flushed, mumbling thanks as I slid into the truck. It felt like the start of something promising. The restaurant was small, local, string lights draped across the patio, the smell of fried shrimp thick in the warm evening air. Nolan gestured to the menu. "Order whatever you want," he said. "Don't hold back." Small, thoughtful gestures like that made a difference. A lot of guys I'd dated joked about women ordering salads. Nolan made me feel safe enough to order the shrimp platter. Conversation flowed effortlessly. He spoke of growing up in Sarasota, of his childhood dog Copper, of the time he broke his arm attempting to skateboard off a shed. I laughed so hard I almost choked on my drink, and for the first time in a long while it felt like someone genuinely cared about my laughter. At one point he leaned forward, his expression soft, eyes lingering on mine. "You have a nice laugh," he said. "You should use it more often." I blinked, caught off guard. "What do you mean?" "You seem like someone who doesn't get told enough that she's special." The words hit differently than any compliment I'd received. I didn't know what to say, so I just smiled, unsure if I should be flattered or uneasy. Dinner was perfect. Easy, natural, like we were old friends rediscovering one another. When the check arrived, he didn't even glance my way, just paid it and stood. "Come on," he said. "The beach is better than dessert." We strolled barefoot along the sand. The sky glowed pink and orange as the sun sank low and the waves tickled my ankles. I breathed deeply, letting the salty breeze fill me with a giddy, hopeful warmth. "This is beautiful," I said softly. "Not as beautiful as you," he replied, and somehow it didn't sound cheesy. We talked as we walked. His love for surfing, my dream of traveling to Greece, our favorite childhood cartoons. Light, easy conversation until it wasn't. The shift was almost imperceptible. He started talking about family, his parents. "My dad was tough," he said. "Old-fashioned, didn't take crap from anyone, especially not my mom." I frowned, stepping closer. "What do you mean?" He shrugged casually, kicking at the sand. "You know, if she mouthed off, he'd put her in her place. A slap may be worse, but it worked." They stayed together. "Strong marriage." I froze mid-step, stomach tightening. "Wait, you're saying your dad hit your mom?" Nolan looked at me like I'd missed something obvious. "Yeah, and it didn't ruin anything. Sometimes women need a reminder." My chest tightened, cold dread pooling in my stomach. "Nolan, that's not okay." His smile faded, eyes hardening. "Excuse me?" I swallowed, trying to steady my voice. "No real man hits a woman. That's not love. That's abuse." His jaw clenched and the warmth I'd felt earlier vanished. "So you're insulting my dad now?" "No, I'm just saying." "Don't," he snapped, voice sharp, almost menacing. "You don't know him. You don't know me." I tried to step back, but his hand shot out, gripping my arm with shocking force. Pain flared up my skin. "Nolan," I gasped, panic rising. He let go, then slapped me hard. The crack echoed across the sand. My cheek burned instantly, and I staggered, eyes wide. "What the hell?" Before I could react, his fist slammed into my shoulder, sending me stumbling into the sand, pain radiating down my arm. "Don't you ever disrespect my family again?" he hissed, rage twisting every word. My heartbeat thundered in my ears. Tears stung my eyes as I scrambled to my feet. "Nolan, stop, please." He lunged at me again, fingers digging into my skin when suddenly voices shouted, "Hey! Let her go!" A group of strangers was running toward us, 2 men, a woman. Nolan whipped his head toward them, fury contorting his features. "Mind your damn business," he snarled. One of the men lunged, yanking him back. Nolan struggled, cursing, thrashing violently, but they held him off. The woman ran to me, kneeling in the sand. "Are you okay?" she asked, voice urgent. "Oh my God, you're bleeding." I touched my lip. Blood. My whole body trembled. Nolan screamed at them, trying to break free, but someone shouted about calling the cops. Then he bolted, vanishing into the darkness like a shadow. I sat on a nearby bench, wrapped in a stranger's jacket, still shaking, still crying. She rubbed my back gently. "You're safe now. It's over," she said softly. It didn't feel over. When the police arrived, I told them everything. Dinner, the walk, his words, the sudden violence. My voice trembled, my hands shook, but I forced myself through it. They took his name, his number, his truck description, and promised to search for him. Deep down, I knew he was gone, vanished into the night. The woman who helped insisted on driving me home. I stared out the window, numb, seeing my swollen cheek, busted lip, and eyes that didn't feel like mine anymore. At home, I locked every door and window, sitting on the couch in silence. My sundress still smelled faintly of salt water and fried shrimp. I hadn't even changed before the tears came again. That night changed me. Not just the bruises that lingered, but the betrayal. The way someone could smile, laugh, and turn violent in a heartbeat. How I had mistaken that smile for kindness. The police called a few times afterward, but Nolan was never caught. He disappeared completely, leaving only a shadow behind. Now every time someone suggests a setup, every time a new number texts me, my stomach knots. Nolan's face, warmth dissolving into rage, will never leave my mind, and I will never ever see a first date the same way again.